The FNM Chairman's wife considering legal action as the Bank of the Bahamas controversy continues. A teen arraigned for the attempted murder of a police officer. Plus, the Deputy Speaker of the House voicing concerns on crime. We've got those stories and a whole lot more tonight. I'm Dana Smith and NB12 starts now. Topping news tonight, the wife of Free National Movement Chairman Darren is preparing to take legal action against the Bank of the Bahamas after she was allegedly fired 2 weeks ago. It's the latest development in the Bank of the Bahamas controversy since his wife was placed on paid leave and police officers seized a cell phone and laptops from the Cash family home in relation to a probe into leaked bank information. Cash insists his wife is being used as a scapegoat and claims she will fight to protect her professional reputation. Vonnie Toot reports.
Annette Cash, who is the wife of FNM Chairman Darren Cash, is said to be evaluating all of her legal options 2 weeks after she was allegedly fired by Bank of the Bahamas. Speaking with NB12 at their Western New Providence home, Cash said his wife's only fault is being married to the FNM chairman. However, he says she is determined to protect her professional integrity.
My wife is evaluating all of her legal options to pursue this matter. This is not a matter of guilt or innocence because, as I have said before, it is clear that the bank has found the most frivolous grounds for termination. This is about a consummate professional determining what is the most appropriate way of reensuring that the Bahamian people understand the strength of her professionalism, protecting her reputation as a professional.
After working at Bank of the Bahamas for 10 years, Cash says his wife Annette was placed on paid leave for several weeks before her services were eventually terminated. This latest development comes 6 weeks after police officers seized a smartphone and laptops from the FNM chairman's home as part of a probe into confidential leaks from Bank of the Bahamas. Police have not charged Cash or anyone in relation to that probe, and his seized property has been returned. Cash insisted that his wife, who held a high position in the bank's Human Resources Department, never had access to the leaked information.
A manager for Human Resources whose only sin appears to be that she is the husband of the Free National Movement chairman, who is insisting on complete and thorough investigations from the bank. I think as a public officer, while this matter plays out in the court, I will certainly continue to do my job as chairman of the FNM in raising concerns about alleged abuses within a publicly traded organization that is controlled by the government of the Bahamas.
The matter involving Bank of the Bahamas grabbed national attention several months ago after the Punch reported a series of allegations regarding loans from the bank. Cash has also been vocal on the issue, calling for the House of Assembly's Public Accounts Committee to scrutinize the extent to which public funds, including those of NIB, are at risk at the bank. However, some people have asked, why raise questions about your wife's employer?
My obligation as the chairman of a political party goes way beyond just my own personal experiences, the extent to which I am personally impacted. I happen to be someone who is in a position to raise the issue and deal with the consequences. For some people, personal relationships trump politics. For me, the reverse is true in this case, that I've got to do what is in the best interest of the Bahamian people, what's in the best interest of this country.
That being said, he renewed his calls for government to get to the bottom of allegations. In the meantime, he says his wife will protect her integrity.
The matter will not go quietly because it is important for all of us to protect our professional reputation.
Efforts to reach Bank of the Bahamas Managing Director Paul McQueenie for comment were not successful up to news time. However, when we called the bank inquiring about Mrs. Cash, we were informed she is no longer employed with the company. As this matter plays out, Cash says as FNM chairman he will continue to raise the alarm on serious issues like this one. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonique Toot.
Days after Free National Movement leader Dr. Hubert Minnis refused to explain why the Ingram administration failed to enact the Freedom of Information Act, his deputy leader Loretta Butler Turner insisted today the FNM government had intended to revise the act to withhold highly classified information and enforce it on July 1st, 2012. However, she said the FNM was booted out of office before that could happen.
We actually had set a date for July the 1st, I think it was. Elections were being held in May. We had debated it and passed it in the House of Assembly, and I think that we wanted to be able to do it in accordance with the new fiscal year. And unfortunately, the Bahamian people booted us out of office, and the government knew that the enactment date was July the 1st, meaning the Christie administration, and they chose to ignore it.
The Ingram administration tabled the Freedom of Information Bill in Parliament in October 2011. A revamped version was passed in the Senate in February 2012. Dr. Minnis and other FNM MPs joined a demonstration in Rawson Square on Wednesday, where more than 100 people demanded the government enforce the act. Minnis said it is disgraceful to watch the level of resistance by Prime Minister Perry Christie to enact it, but did not indicate why the Ingram administration didn't do it before 2012. However, Butler Turner insisted it was a priority.
We realized the importance of information, transparency, accountability. The government really was committed to that. And I think that our administration obviously would have had to look at some of the clauses within it to ensure that, you know, as much information that the public can glean without revealing classified or highly classified information that may pertain to national security or otherwise. We had to make sure that those things would have been withheld. But no, I think it was very important. And while it was brought late on the agenda, it was something we were committed to.
The FNM deputy leader also responded to DNA leader Granville McCartney, who accused the party of playing politics and insisted the FNM government decided to bring a bill that is not worth the paper it is written on.
I think Granville McCartney is more concerned with grabbing headlines as opposed to presenting substance, and anything that is against the FNM. That seems to be his biggest mantra. I don't make anything of it.
A leading businessman is warning the government that an increase in minimum wage could lead to a decrease in jobs, pointing out local businesses are already grappling with VAT implementation plans and other increases in the cost of doing business. Labor and National Insurance Minister Shane Gibson said last week the government will consider proposals for what he called a much-needed increase to the national minimum wage by the end of the year. However, President of Superwash and former Chamber of Commerce President Dionisio D'Aguilar says while that might be a popular choice, it is not necessarily a wise one.
Do you want the minimum wage employees to make a little bit more, but there be less of their jobs? Or do you want them to make a little bit less and there be more of those jobs? That increases the costs of doing business in this country. And on the back of VAT, on the back of the government's talking about introducing a national health scheme, and all of these things, all of these costs, increased business license fees, all of these costs are beginning to add up and making us, as a jurisdiction, very uncompetitive.
The minimum wage for public sector employees is $210 per week, while the minimum wage for private sector employees is $150 per week. D'Aguilar says all of his employees make more than minimum wage, noting that if businesses want decent employees, they'll pay for them. However, he says it could be tough for some businesses.
There's a whole category of workers, for example, waitresses or people in the restaurant business that get a base of $150 plus tips. So now if you increase that base to $175 plus tips, that's a real increase to the cost of that business. So you got to be very, very mindful of it. It's a very populist thing to say, and it's very hard for me to sit here because people think, oh, Diaglo, you're a rich guy and you can, you're just, not sensitive to what people in minimum wage are making, but you've got to be careful.
Bahamas Public Services Union President John Pinder wants the government to raise the minimum wage ahead of that implementation, while Trade Union Congress President Obie Ferguson has said the country's minimum wage is simply unacceptable. A 19-year-old man appeared before Magistrate Andrew Forbes today charged with the attempted murder of a police officer. Adrian Monroe of Golden Isles Road was represented in court by attorney Nathan Smith. It is alleged that on Sunday, June 8th, Monroe attempted to murder Detective Corporal Garth Harris. Monroe was further charged with 2 counts of possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life. It is alleged that on that same day, Monroe had a Ruger pistol in his possession with intent to endanger the lives of Detective Constables Ronrico Taylor and Ronald Cash. According to police reports released after the incident in question, officers acting on intelligence attempted to arrest a suspect in Elizabeth Estates. They say the suspect fired several shots at the officers, hitting one of them in the right arm. Monroe was not required to enter a plea to the charges and was denied bail. Magistrate Forbes told him the matter would proceed to the Supreme Court, likely by way of a voluntary bill of indictment. Monroe was remanded to Her Majesty's prison until his next court appearance on June 24th. When MB12 returns, the Education Minister says Marco City MP Greg Moss was misguided with his comments on VAT. Stay with us.